I know we're going to hear it. I know it. I know it now. It's probably already being said. I know we're going to hear it, and I don't want to hear it. I'm Glenn Naughton with Jet Nation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log on to JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. So Mike White gets under center today for the New York Jets, and the offense is completely night and day, a 180 from what they were in previous weeks. 31-10 over the Bears. Mike White throws for 315, 22 out of 28 passing, 3 touchdowns, no picks, had a couple that could have been picked. But here's what I know we're going to hear, and I don't want to hear it. Well, Mike White was facing a beat-up Bears secondary, and Zach Wilson was facing much tougher defenses. The Patriots have a good secondary, and he had faced them twice recently. Mike White got to face the Bears. They had 2 guys with concussions before the game. They lost another guy during the game. He's thrown against a soft secondary. Do you know why I don't want to hear it? And I mean no disrespect to Zach Wilson. Said it a million times. I like Zach. Wanted Zach out of BYU. My top choice to be the quarterback, to pick in that spot. But I don't want to hear it because I don't care if you're playing the number 1 defense in the NFL or the number 32 defense in the NFL. If you're consistently missing wide open receivers, you have no room to talk. Don't tell me that Zach's numbers were worse because the defenses were better. He's got receivers running around the field waving their arms, and he's scrambling with no pressure. No pressure in his face, rolling out. Or a little bit of pressure coming. Doesn't want to hang in there and take the hit, he bails, runs. Swing pass, not even close. Screen pass, 3rd row over Braxton Berrios' head. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear that Zach Wilson was so put upon. Oh, the poor guy, he had to play these tough defenses. Right. But he still can't hit a swing, a screen, or see an open guy down the field waving his arms. So that it carries 0 water. None. Mike White, did he get us off defense? Absolutely. But you know what else he did? What he had to do. He did what he should have done. He saw what the defense gave him, hit the open receiver. How many receivers? 10. Completed passes to 10 different receivers. Garrett Wilson, 5 for 95 and 2 touchdowns. Elijah Moore, remember that guy? Look, I was as harsh on Elijah Moore as anybody, saying the trade demand was out of line, it was immature, the team was winning, you should be quiet and just keep contributing, your time will come. But then on the other hand, as if you listen to myself and Dylan Turman in recent weeks on Jet Nation Live, we've said, listen, if he's not just on the roster, but active on game day and on the field, use Elijah Moore. Get him involved. Immature outbursts, whatever you want to say, trade demand, all that stuff. If he's on the field, he is a talent. Use him and get him involved. And we saw that when he had a 42-yard catch and run, broke a couple tackles on a big catch from Mike White. Later in the game, he scores a touchdown, his first of the year. So, again, welcome back Elijah Moore. Tyler Conklin had 3 grabs. Zonovan Bam Knight, makes his NFL debut and has himself a really nice day. 3 catches for 34. He was also the leading rusher on the ground, 14 for 69. Michael Carter, sounds like, got dinged up a little bit, so Knight became the featured guy. James Robinson wasn't active today. No real reason given. Robert Saleh said he liked Knight's running style better. We'll see if anything comes of that, if there's an injury or something that isn't being discussed right now. But you had Ty Johnson, Michael Carter, Denzel Mims, Corey Davis, Braxton Berrios. All these guys had catches. Ty Johnson with a big touchdown run. I mean, listen, Ty Johnson's not Barry Sanders. But for a third back, I don't know. Maybe I feel like whenever he's gotten, quote-unquote opportunities, it's been at times where the box is getting he's just not seeing a lot of room. He gets a couple carries every few weeks, and there's not a lot of room to run. But today he had a crease, he broke a tackle, and bang, it's a 30 or 32-yard touchdown run, whatever it was. So big day for him, and really, 21-yard touchdown run. It was 32. So 32-yard touchdown run for Ty Johnson. Mike White tears it up. Zach Wilson, like I said, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear that Zach Wilson had a harder time because they were tougher defenses when Zach Wilson could not, in fact, hit the side of a barn. Doesn't matter where your defense is ranked. If you can't hit a target when the guy has no defender standing around him, and And we're talking about times when Zach Wilson had time to throw. I'm not saying when he was under duress and running for his life, because despite what some people say, Zach Wilson has had some reps where he's got plenty of time, and he's got a wide open receiver, and he's not even close. We didn't see any of that today from Mike White. And as I said before the game, half jokingly, I said there's a chance Mike White could tie Zach Wilson's touchdown pass total for the year if he has himself a strong game. He almost did it. Zach Wilson's got 4 touchdown passes this year. Mike White had 3 today. So you should expect him to tie and surpass that maybe by halftime next week. Hopefully by halftime next week. Definitely you would imagine at some point in the game. But listen, this isn't going to be the norm for Mike White. He's not going to come out and just not turn it over. And he could have turned it over today. He had a couple near turnovers, a couple near picks. But here's the thing. When your defense is as good as the Jets' defense, you can afford a couple of turnovers if there are touchdowns coming with it. That was the problem with Zach Wilson. And I mentioned this on the forums at jetnation.com. Is that Zach Wilson had zero room for error, zero margin for error. Why? Because he's got 4 touchdown passes. If you're not throwing the ball, if you're not scoring points through the air, especially once Breece Hall went out, but if you're not scoring points, if you're not throwing touchdowns, you can't throw an interception. So for all the fans that, Zach Wilson, look, they're winning and he's not turning it over. Well, he better not turn it over because he's also not throwing any touchdowns. If he's throwing 2, 3, hey, maybe we get a 4 out of Mike White at some point. But if you're throwing 2 or 3 touchdowns on a somewhat consistent basis, then you can live with a couple of turnovers when your defense is as good as the Jets' defense is. And quick segue from that. This is what drives me crazy. National media, right? I hear all the time from fans, and I say all the time that I don't have all the answers, right? I don't pretend to know more than I know. But I always hear, well, you can't question that guy. He played in the league. Oh, but so-and-so said this. Yeah, well, I think he was wrong. Oh, you're going to disagree with a former NFL player? Darryl Johnston, great player. Loved watching him when I was a kid. Listen, the Cowboys were great. They were on TV every week, so you saw the Jets and you always saw the Cowboys or the Niners at some point. Excuse me. Darryl Johnston says late in the game, again, former NFL player, the Jets don't have a championship caliber defense because they don't have any playmakers up front. And his broadcast partner says to him exactly what was going through my mind. What about Quinnen Williams? And Darryl Johnson says, oh yeah, he leads all interior defensive linemen in pressures, hits, whatever he said. Well, is that not a difference maker? Like, if one of your guys up front is someone who pressures the quarterback more than anyone else in the NFL, then maybe, I would say even if you're top 5 in that category, that would qualify as a difference maker, no? And are we going to ignore Carl Lawson? Are we going to ignore Bryce Huff? I mean, this D-line is playing fantastic right now. And Quinnen Williams is absolutely a difference maker up front. So here's a former NFL player who I'd imagine is paid pretty good money to read up on these teams before the games he analyzes. And he says the Jets don't have any DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner aren't difference makers? Like those 3 guys, Williams, Gardner, Reed, they are the difference makers on this roster right now. Teams can't throw the ball against the Jets with any level of consistency because of Reed and Sauce. Even the touchdown Reed gave up today, tip of the cap to the receiver. I mean, Reed was in there. Had an arm between him and between the ball and the receiver. I don't know. I honestly don't know how DJ Reed didn't bat that away. It was unbelievable. But he was in perfect position. He got a part of the ball. The receiver just grabbed it and pulled it away. Sometimes that's going to happen. But next time someone tells you that, well, that guy played in the league, so, what he says is gospel. I would never in a million years pretend to be, to know X's and O's the way a former player does. But in terms of just watching the team and identifying high-level players, you're not going to convince me that Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, and Quinnen Williams aren't high-level players. And there are other guys, you could throw Carl Lawson in there. But even just those 3. And to say specifically, they don't have one up front. And there's Quinnen Williams. He says in the next breath, yeah, he's number 1 in the NFL in pressures. He's going to have a double-digit sack season on the defensive interior. That's a difference maker. So, sorry for the segue, but that blew me away when I heard him say that. Really just a silly statement. But Zach Wilson, want to get back to Zach Wilson and his production or lack thereof since coming to the Jets a couple years ago. Looked back at his 20 games. Zach Wilson has 20 career starts as a Jet, right? In those 20 games, he's thrown for 250 yards just 4 times. 250 yards in 2022 was not the greatest achievement. But you would think at least a decent quarterback, would do it more than 4 times in 20 games. He's thrown for 300 yards once. That was a couple weeks ago, the loss to the Patriots. We've seen him throw 2 touchdowns 4 times, 3 touchdowns once in 20 games. All of the other quarterbacks who have played for the Jets, while Zach Wilson's been out, injured, whatever, ineffective, that includes Josh Johnson. Now, Johnson came in relief of Mike White, but it was very early in the game, so he still had like 39 dropbacks. But Josh Johnson, Joe Flacco, Mike White. In 8 games, they've thrown for 250 3 times, only 1 time less than Zach in his 20 starts. They've thrown for 300 yards 4 times in their 8 games. Again, Zach once in 20. 2 touchdowns, they've done it once in 8 games. Zach Wilson's done it 4 times in 20 games. And 3 touchdowns, Zach has done it once. Again, Patriots a couple weeks ago. His backups have done it 5 times in 8 games. So what does this tell us? It tells us that anyone who's been saying for the past year or year plus that this team has some legitimate weapons on offense is absolutely right. Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, even Berrios the way he played late last year. The running backs, you've got Michael Carter. Again, Breece Hall's out. But there are playmakers on this offense, as evidenced by the production that you see when anyone other than Zach Wilson is playing. Sort of 250 to 300 yards with a few touchdowns is the norm. It's the norm. It's 5 out of 8 times. 5 out of 8, you've seen 3 touchdown passes. 4 out of 8, you've seen 300 yards. With Zach, those things don't happen. And part of it, you could say, well, the coordinator, they're holding them back a little bit. Well, why would they do that? If they're letting everyone else do it, but not Zach, do you think there's a reason why they're not trusting him to throw the ball enough to do that? Possibly. But what about when they let him throw it? And as we said, go watch the old 22s. He's missing guys down the field in terms of just not even seeing them, not seeing the open man. Rich Cimini shot out a tweet after the Mike White touchdown pass to Garrett Wilson that covered over 30 yards through the air. Zach Wilson hasn't completed a ball that went 30 yards through the air this season. This according to Rich Cimini. Not one. It took Mike White less than a game to do it. Zach Wilson hasn't done it this year. So it's been ugly. And listen, I don't mean to pile on and beat up Zach Wilson, but the facts are the facts. Every single guy who has stepped in and played in his place has played at a high level. Josh Johnson, look, how do you not love the guy? He's played for 1 million teams over 50 years. He's 1,000 years old. Class guy, just shows up, does his job, plays at a quality level when given the opportunity. He gets a game and he throws for over 300. He starts 1 game every few years. Gets 1 start, bang, 300 yards. Joe Flacco went for 300 a couple times this year. He did it against the Browns. I believe he did it against the Ravens. 1 on a loss, 1 on a win. And of course, there's Mike White, who, let's be honest, the way Mike White played today, if the Jets just let him loose and let him throw the ball all he wants, he'd have thrown for 400 again today. That fourth quarter was just strictly run. Run the clock out. You well in control. The Bears weren't coming back, and the Jets just ran the clock out. On defense, a little bit sloppy, especially early on, really ugly. Brandon Echols blew a tackle that led to the Bears' first field goal. It was 3rd and long, 3rd and 9, 10, whatever it was. Had the receiver wrapped up 4 or 5 yards behind the first down marker and just slides off of him, and it's like a 30, 40-yard gain. Then the drive continues. A couple plays later, C.J. Mosley gets smoked in coverage, as bad as we've seen Mosley look as a Jet in coverage. I mean, he looked slow. Simeon just dumped it off over the middle. Running back did the rest. C.J. Mosley just losing ground every step of the way. And then we saw Sauce Gardner give up a 30-some-yard, 31, 32-yard catch to Chase Claypool. Those things are going to happen. He's going to give up a catch from time to time. But all in all, and I tweeted this to Dylan Terman, I said, listen, I'm still 100% sure they're going to win this game. I think this is when they were down 10-3. I was like, the defense is going to buckle down, and they're going to win this game. And they did. The open field tackling wasn't great. We saw some missed tackles along the way. That's something to clean up. But listen, a win is a win. We'll take it. Mike White, you got to tip your cap to the guy. Took what was there, decisive with the football, took the snap, got rid of it, was on target. Again, I only threw 6 incomplete passes all day. And just a phenomenal job. Now you got to hope that he only took 1 sack, by the way, as well, which not a bad job there. So Mike White, another monster debut, same as he did last year. And now the Jets get ready to, and listen, it's going to be Mike White until the Jets have a reason to pull him. Robert Saleh, the broadcast said during the game, Robert Saleh is in an interesting situation. He said that he said the plan was to bring Zach Wilson back. Listen, the plan was to not bench Zach Wilson unless he was injured, wasn't it? You do what you got to do. And if Mike White keeps playing this way, what you got to do is keep playing Mike White. And that's the end of it. So Mike White, I'm sure you heard it. I heard it. Everybody heard it. The Mike White chants raining down from the stands in MetLife Stadium. Great moment for the guy. Clearly very liked in the locker room. Fans love him. Everybody loves the backup quarterback. But again, tip your cap. Great effort. Moving forward, does he keep the job? Does he not? I think he does. We'll discuss this game and that and more this week on Jet Nation Live. Myself and Dylan Terman, Thursday night at 6:30. Be sure to tune in. Catch you next time, Jets fans.